What up, good people? I know it's been a minute, but I'm back now. And today, we want to talk about diesel exhaust, emissions, after treatment system, DEF, whatever you want to call it. The question is, should you delete your emissions? That's a loaded question, so let's get right to it. This is going to be, I'm going to have to break this up in 2 videos. It's going to be 2 parts to this. So bear with me. Watch this part first, and then watch the second part. I'm going to try to keep it as short and concise as I can. All right. So first, let me tell you my story with DEF. I bought a 2014 Freightliner Cascadia back in 2017, and it was a great truck. I had no issues with the engine. I had no issues with the transmission, the differential, none of that stuff. I mean, it was a great truck when it came down to the engine and the transmission. But let me tell you, that emissions system was an absolute nightmare. Anytime I had any issue with that truck, which was very often, it had something to do with the after treatment system. I had to deal with constant breakdowns, constant trips to the shop. It was a pure headache. And for most companies, most of the big companies, they don't have to deal with this, because what they do is they'll buy a truck and they'll buy a truck new and they'll keep it until about 300,000 or 400,000 miles, and then they get rid of it. Then people like myself come in, owner operators, we're trying to, catch a deal. We're trying to be fiscally responsible for our business. And so, a lot of the times we have to end up buying the used trucks. And unfortunately, we're buying these trucks just as the problems are about to begin. Now, I know eventually we're going to get to a point where there probably won't be a truck on the road without the after treatment systems on them. But where we are right now, to me, the after treatment systems are just not at a point where they're beneficial for the small owner operator. And I get it, it's just something we have to deal with. Times are changing and they're phasing the older trucks out. I understand that. However, for a smaller company that's trying to stay in business and maintain, these trucks are just a pure nightmare. All right. With my truck, I would get it fixed, and within a week or 2 weeks, I would be right back in the shop. And this is costing me money. Not only is it costing me money paying to get it fixed, it's costing me money because I'm missing out on loads. I'm down. If I have a load, if I'm under a load, then that load is now late. And so it's just a nightmare. And as an owner operator, everything falls on you. So that's another big issue when it comes to dealing with these after treatment systems. This truck would derate on me. I don't know if you've ever had a truck derate on you. It's one thing to have your truck derate on you, but it's another thing to have your truck derate on you when you're in the middle of nowhere. And I can tell you from experience that it's a feeling it's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling to be in the middle of nowhere and your truck just starts to derate on you. And I find that to be a safety issue. I find that to be a hazard, because what if you're in the desert? What if you're, driving out to California and you're in the desert? You're coming across, Arizona and places like that, and New Mexico, and, you're in these deserted terrains. Or what if you're, up in Canada and, you're in the freezing cold? I find this to be a problem. It's a major problem for these trucks to just automatically derate and slow down to the point where they're undrivable. I had my truck do that to me twice, and it was just a very, very, very bad feeling. I don't wish that feeling on anybody. Another issue with having a truck with the after treatment system on it is dealing with dealerships. Most of the time, when you're talking about the after treatment system, if you have an issue with it, you're going to have to take it back to the dealership most of the time. There are some good shops out there. They're very few and far in between, though. You're going to have to really do your research to find shops that really know how to work on these after treatment systems. And to be honest with you, sometimes when you go to the dealership, they don't know what they're doing either. They'll have, some person who has only been a mechanic for a short amount of time, and they'll just plug it up to a computer, and if the computer doesn't tell them what's going on, then they just don't know. And so what happens is they will start guessing at what could possibly be wrong with your truck. And that is just, you're talking about you just throwing away money. Money is just going out of the window like a water coming out of a fire hydrant. I gotta be honest, my first truck literally almost put me out of business. I was hanging on by a thread, and it was all due to after treatment issues. Every single issue I had to do something with the after treatment system. It got to the point where I would go into the dealership and they would say, "Oh, you just need a forced regen," and then they would charge me anywhere between $300 to $500 to do a forced regen. And then in a few weeks, I would be right back in there for the same problem. So I started doing research, and I found my own tool. I found the tool that I could use to do a forced regen on my truck. And as a matter of fact, I still have that tool. So if you have a truck with a Detroit DD15 in it, reach out to me in the comments. I still have the tool. I don't need it anymore, so I'm looking to sell it. So if you're looking for something like that, this tool really saved me a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of headache, because I was able to hook this tool up to my OBD port in my truck and do a forced regen on the truck. All right, so hit me up if you're interested in getting it. But yeah. And the cost of repair just on that after treatment system, man, it's outrageous. It's completely outrageous. It's just, man, it's just an overall nightmare. It's very, very inconvenient. Just yesterday, I was coming out of the building, and there was a truck driver sitting there. And he was, he had to leave, he had to go and drop his load off, but he couldn't because his truck decided that it was time for him to do a regen at that moment. And he couldn't, he had to sit there and wait for the truck to finish regenning. It's just a headache. Very inconvenient. Then on top of that, you take into consideration things like the 2021 DEF shortage and the DEF part shortage. There were some people with certain trucks who needed sensors. Something was going on with the sensors in these after treatment systems, and a lot of the drivers needed these parts, and they couldn't get them. So the government released some type of just a waiver for them to bypass the DEF system until the parts became available again. But just again, another headache, another hassle. To the point, a DEF shortage So you're telling me you want me to have this stuff. It's a must that I use it, but then I can't find it anywhere. What are we supposed to do? And I gotta admit, around that time, I didn't have, around that time I had already purchased my glider kit truck. And I was just so happy that I didn't have to deal with that. So back to the 2014 Cascadia. So again, I was having problem after problem after problem with the after treatment system. And then it got to the point where I took it in one day because it had derated on me again. And they said, hey, you need a one box, because I had a DD15 in my truck. They said, you need a one box and it's gonna be 15 grand. And at that point I said, you know what? I've had enough, man. I'm not doing this anymore. So what I did, I just sat the truck to the side. I sat it to the side and I went and purchased a glider kit. Now, let me backtrack. I tried to purchase a glider kit before I even got this this Cascadia with the DD15 in it. When I purchased my first truck, I knew coming out the gate that I didn't want a truck with DEF. But unfortunately, this was my first time buying a truck, and the company that I was trying to finance the truck through, well, actually all of them, they, for some reason, they didn't understand. They thought the glider kit truck was old. Well, a lot of them were older, but not that much older. And they didn't want to finance them because they didn't think they were good trucks. And I would try to explain to them, like, no, you got it backwards. The glider kit truck is more dependable than any of these newer trucks. But, you know, these are people in the banking industry. They don't understand. They're just going by what they're being told. So a lot of them just wouldn't finance the glider kit. So that's why I had to end up settling for the Cascadia with the after treatment system on it. And when the one box went out, I just said, I don't care. I'm not buying another truck with the after treatment system on it. So that's when I got the glider kit. It was a 2013 Freightliner Coronado glider kit. Beautiful truck. I had no issues with the truck. Nothing outside of regular maintenance like oil changes, brakes. You know, I did have to change the radiator on it. You know, just simple stuff, man. Simple stuff that, you know, can be fixed. Something that, you know, somebody can see the problem and fix it and be done with it. So that was a great truck. I did end up selling it. I am really, really, really regretting that right now. I really am, but it's okay. I'll get another one sometime soon. This is what I say, man, to conclude this video, because I don't want it to be too much longer. If you can afford it, get an old school truck. Try to get I know there's not many good ones left, but you got to search, you got to dig, you got to do your research. There are some out there for sale. And yes, they cost. They're going to cost you money. But if you have, in your trucking business, if you have the freight, if you have consistent, steady freight and you're making good money, trust me, get the glider kit truck. It will pay you back in dividends because it's going to be dependable. It's not going to give you any issues. You're not going to have to worry about regens. Now, you won't be able to go to California. So if you're based out of California, then this whole video is just it's a moot point for you. I mean, you got to have emissions on your truck if you're in California. So, and then, you know, let me just say this. Another thing is, I understand why the government is mandating these systems on these trucks. I get it. We have to protect our environment. We have to protect the earth. I completely understand that. I'm not a tree hugger, but I understand that we have to protect our environment that we live in, and the emissions coming from these trucks is a big problem. However, I feel as though if the government wants to mandate this on us, then there should be some type of provisions for us truckers who are dealing with these after treatment issues. You know, this shouldn't have to fall all on our backs. You know, that's how I feel about it. Whether it be something like a lifetime warranty, no matter what, I feel like the government should have some type of program where a driver can take their truck in somewhere and have it fixed at no cost to the driver. I mean, you know, you're saying, hey, if we're trying to protect the environment and this is something the government is mandating, and I know some people are going to disagree with that because they're going to say, well, we're trying to keep the government out of our business. We're trying to, you know, limit government oversight as much as we can. And I understand that too. And I agree with that. But however, man, this is just this whole after treatment system it's a major problem for a lot of small companies and owner operators. So that's how I feel about it. Leave your comments down below. Let's talk about it. Let me know how you feel. Part 2 of this video is coming up. So in part 2, I'll be discussing the actual question. I'll be answering your question about whether or not you should actually delete your after treatment system. All right. I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.